30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's to the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And welcome everybody once again to the Big Ugly Show right here on UndefinedRadio.com. Appreciate you guys and gals tuning in on this toasty Wednesday evening.
Absolutely.
I know it is toasty and smothering here in the SIP anyway.
It's been a rough week altogether. It's
been brutal, man. It's been brutal. This is a big announcement, couple of big announcements actually. First of all, this is the last episode of the Big Uglies. Finally, it's going away. Big Uglies is going away, so, you know, rest in peace, Big Uglies.
Play the death march.
That's it. Well, I should have put it up here and had it ready for that. I was so unprepared for this. However, the good news is that a new show is taking its place, Undefined Blitz, and it won't be just on Undefined Radio. It will be in podcast form as well, so you can listen to it wherever you pick up podcasts from, whether it's iTunes, all your Apple stuff, your
Spotify.
Google, Spotify. It's going to be on all the places, Amazon, so it's going to be on all the major podcast outlets, which is going to be fun and going to be cool. We're trying to take this nationwide, and you know, because of the sporting audience, you have to kind of reach out a little broader. So we thought, you know what, it's time to introduce a new show that we can do that with. It's still going to be part of Undefined Radio, and for those of you who follow Undefined Radio, you will still be able to listen to it and watch us live stream it here on Undefined Radio, but it is going
You can watch the live stream still on Facebook.
That's
you can
right.
still find it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to listen, UndefinedRadio.com, Undefined Radio app when we're going live. But if you can't listen live, you can always check out all these different podcast formats that we're going to have available for you.
That's right, and that's what's really cool because a lot of people will travel and they'll listen to these podcasts and things like that. And I love the new format of what we're going to do. We will end up having, especially during the season, we'll have 2 shows a week. We'll have one on a Monday, one on a Thursday morning. Thursday, of course, will be more along the line of what's coming up this weekend, what's hot. We will even have our top fantasy picks for that week going into that night because, hey, Thursday Night Football is the deal.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have that. So it's going to be a lot of fun Mondays. And here's the thing. Dude, you can get recaps of the scores and all that stuff anywhere. So it's not smart for us to go through there and just say, well, we're going to recap all the games. That's not what we're doing. We're going to hit hot topics. We're going to talk about the topics that were hot coming out of the weekend and going into the weekend for that matter.
Players
not
that
just
underperformed.
NFL. We're talking college.
Overperformed.
Yeah, we're talking all football. So whatever that news is, college, NFL, both, we're talking about it. So stay tuned for that. That's Undefined Blitz. That premieres next Thursday right here on Undefined Radio.
Sir.
Because
just
Hall
in
of
time
Fame
for the
game.
Hall of Fame game, yeah.
So that's our key. We have a whole new setup coming. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're putting that together right now and getting ready for that show. So hopefully you guys will follow along with that. If you're into football and sports at all, I think it'll be the thing to do because we love football. That's my sport. And there are a lot of good shows out there. And here's the kind of a cool thing too is people are so conditioned to listen to the ESPNs and the Foxes and all this other stuff, right? And it's easy to get lost in what the prognosticators say and these guys who were in the sport because you assume that they know best. Well, if you've listened to any of this for any length of time, you realize very quickly that's not necessarily true. All right.
No, they get paid to be contrarian.
Listening to Shannon Sharp for 2 seconds lets you know that that's not necessarily true.
Or Skip Bayless, for that matter.
I can't stand
and
Skip Bayless.
they're on the same show.
Yeah, that's just awful. And there's a lot of the same thing with ESPN. It's a lot of rehash. But we're talking about people who love sports, and especially love football. With me and JC, we're going to be giving out our things, what we think about it, because we're going to be giving you the news. We're not giving you news that we're paid to present to you. The hot news that's coming out, we'll give our takes on what we feel about that news and just what it is. I mean, then you take what you will out of that and how that works. So that's what I love about it. It's not an agenda-driven show. It's just talking about how things are in the world of football. Whether you like it or you don't like it, we're talking about what's going on in the world of football. And so we figure for the last show that we're doing on Big Uglies, dude, you can't get any more serious than what's going on with this whole SEC thing with Texas and OU. And coming out of that, the Big 12 is all kinds of pissed off.
Yeah, I mean,
And they should be.
if you're talking about news, here it is. The Big 12 has sent a cease and desist letter
right.
to ESPN. So the Big 12 claims that the network contacted other conferences, quote-unquote, encouraging them to take Big 12 schools so that the conference dissolves, which thereby eliminates the grant of rights, and if the Big 12 implodes, ESPN is not responsible for the final 4 years of the deal, which is worth $1.06 billion, with a B, billion dollars. That's via Brett McMurphy, a college football insider for Stadium.
That's right. So you don't think that there's that ESPN, like, well, ESPN wouldn't do anything like that.
Why would ESPN do anything nefarious?
There's $1 billion involved. Yes, they would.
Yeah.
Yes, they would.
Especially when they're on the hook for that $1 billion.
Right. And that's not to say that we don't know. We don't know. But we're saying if you believe that there's not a kernel of truth in here or that it couldn't happen, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah. So
this is money we're talking about.
So the Big 12 letter demands that ESPN end, quote unquote, all actions that may harm the conference and its members, and that it not communicate with the Big 12 conference's existing members or any NCAA conference regarding the Big 12's conference members, possible conference realignment, or potential financial incentive or outcomes related to the possible conference realignment. ESPN's retort to that, of course, was, quote unquote,
We didn't do nothing.
the claims in the letter have no merit.
Of course they're going to say
Hey,
that.
what's going on, Nate? Mr. Dan, Alan, Howard, how y'all guys doing?
Because you know they're not going to sit there and admit to it.
No, of course they're not going to
admitting
admit to it.
They're
Why
not
would
going to
they?
sit there and go, yeah, you know, we were at fault. Yeah, we kind of
It's
did
2021. Who has accountability for their actions?
Nobody's going to be. No, they're not admitting. But you know they are. And Bob Bowlesby, who runs the Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12 commissioner.
He knows if Big 12 goes under, he don't have a job.
Absolutely. So he's doing whatever he can
So-
to stretch out these next 4 years, trying to make it longer if possible.
Yeah,
Right now, it's a tall task. According to, I guess this guy's last name is Tamil, but Pete Tamil of Yahoo Sports, he reports that Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby made a statement today to Yahoo Sports specifically, saying that what pushed me over the top was a couple of days ago when it became known to me that ESPN had been working with one or more other conferences and even providing incentives for them to destabilize the Big 12 and approach our members about moving away and providing inducements for the conference to do that. That's torturous interference with our business. It's not right, and I wouldn't state this if I didn't know that it was absolutely true.
Oh, that's a tight statement.
Bowlesby
That's a tight
also,
statement.
he went on to indicate that it was specifically the American Athletic Conference, or the AAC, that ESPN was working with, according to CBS Sports' Dennis Dodd.
But of all conferences, really, the AAC.
Well, it's because ESPN already airs a lot of American Athletic Conference
They do.
games.
They do.
So
a lot cheaper.
They have a deal with the AAC. It's a lot cheaper. If they can facilitate some of those Big 12 teams, move them to the AAC, yes, the
That's less money.
AAC is strengthened, so they're going to get better viewership. They're going to get more ratings. Yes, ESPN will have to pay the AAC more money, but it's not near the $1 billion that they're paying
That's
the
right.
Big 12.
Which is the thing.
On top of paying the AAC currently.
Exactly. So, if you don't believe it can happen or is happening.
Yep. And here's the thing with this too. So if ESPN is actually facilitating all this right
Yep.
now, right? And let's say these schools leave, the Big 12 folds. When the Big 12 folds and ESPN is no longer on that hook for $1.06 billion because the grant of rights is gone, you know what else the Big 12 doesn't have anymore because the grant of rights is gone? They don't have Texas and Oklahoma.
That's right.
This is a way that Texas and Oklahoma could find themselves realistically in the SEC as early as next fall.
Which would be crazy.
We know this year
And I'm all for it.
this
by
year
the
they're
way.
going to be in the Big 12. A lot of people don't think that there's a way that football rolls around next season without Texas and OU in the SEC.
I mean, and again, it's going to depend on what what happens with this Big 12 versus ESPN deal. Because if there are shenanigans going on and this comes out, then that creates a whole new monster. Now, it doesn't create it for OU and Texas. It may put off, how long before they become members of the SEC. Or it may shorten that window to, like you're saying, next season, depending on how this shakes out. But I think we were all, when the news came out, we were all under the impression, and I think most people are under the belief that the Big 12 is non-existent after that.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing the last days of the Big 12.
I think that's and I get that Bob Bowlesby wants the Big 12 to continue because you're over it and you're making big time money. Why would you not? And even if that, I'm sure he loves the Big 12 anyway. I mean, that's his.
That's his baby.
I mean, why not? So I'm not saying that he doesn't care about it. It's all about the money for him, but you'd be foolish to believe it once again that there's not that thought involved, and that you don't think he's not taking it personally. Yeah, he is.
Oh yeah, I mean,
they were blindsided by this.
They've come out today and stated it is imperative that the 8 of us, talking about the 8 other schools in the Big 12 that are not Texas or Oklahoma, that the 8 of us do not crack and we stay together for the 4 years and hold OU, Oklahoma, Texas, and ESPN to the contracts, even if it's uncomfortable.
Sure.
So they don't. The Big 12 they're ready to stand their ground. They are dug in. They don't care how tedious this whole situation gets, how unbalanced it gets.
Yeah.
They don't care if they got to have screaming matches in public, for God's sakes. They are ready to hold these 2 schools and ESPN to this last 4 years remaining on this deal leading through the 2024-2025 season.
Which kind of tells me, though, that with a lot of that
it's desperation.
It's desperation, but also any potential school that you hope to get in there and bring in, like we kind of batted around Notre Dame the other day.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We're not getting involved in that pettiness right there. We're fine out here.
Well,
go ahead.
Notre Dame can't go anyway. Like Notre Dame is, because of the deal that they have with the ACC with all their other schools.
Yeah.
Literally every sport Notre Dame has outside of football, they play in the ACC.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And last year, because of the pandemic, they moved football over to the ACC for that one season. Notre Dame can still stay independent because they are a strong brand.
Yeah.
They could, if they wanted to, they could stay independent and be fine.
Sure, but I'm just saying, if there was ever something that they thought, oh, we could move into the Big 12 and all, after seeing this, they're like, no way would I ever go there and deal with this kind of crap. That's not going to happen. I think we're fine.
But with all this, with this report coming out that ESPN is potentially, like, we don't know that they are. We're not involved with ESPN. We don't know how this goes. But if ESPN is actually, pulling these strings behind the scenes, trying to get these other 8 Big 12 teams to leave the Big 12 and move to the SEC or move to the ACC or the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or whatever it is, or the AAC, who's to say that it wasn't ESPN that kind of planted this with maybe Texas and OU 6, 7, 8 months ago? It's like, hey, you guys, y'all ever thought about possibly swinging over to the SEC?
Wouldn't that be something if that come out?
It'd
be kind of funny.
Hey, with this report about the whole AAC thing, it's not one of those things you can just kind of gloss over.
Oh, no.
Because it has some kind of merit to it.
Well, Bowlesby's coming out adamant that he's got proof of this.
Right. He says that it's
so,
absolutely true, or otherwise he wouldn't make the statement.
Yeah, he's intimating that he's got proof. So, I mean, come on, man. There's something to be had right there, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I mean, where there's smoke, there's typically fire, right?
That's right.
It's
I mean,
not one of those things that just kind of pops off on its own.
No, definitely not.
But my question, and this is the thing that everyone's been discussing for the last week, is where do these other schools go? Like, who wants the leftovers of the Big 12? And also that, not only that, because there's also been reports that maybe the SEC is still interested in growing. Maybe they don't want to stop at 16. What if they want to
go further?
What if they want to go to 20? Do they pluck, Ohio State and Michigan from the Big Ten? Do they take Clemson and Florida State from the ACC? Because if they do that, it's NFL light.
Pretty much.
For sure. I mean,
pretty much.
You have the premier programs at that point.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't come to that. I would personally like for the ACC to, granted, there's no other program outside of Notre Dame that's a big enough brand that any one of these conferences can bring in.
No.
So ACC, if they were to bring in like a Notre Dame and a West Virginia to battle the 16-team SEC conference, I think that would behoove ACC. And a lot of people keep saying Iowa State and Kansas to the Big Ten because Kansas is so good at basketball. Iowa State's up right now in football. Like, Iowa State's up literally right now at football. As soon as Matt Campbell leaves Iowa State, they're going to be bad again.
Yep.
They've been bad my entire life.
That's right.
They're not about to – they haven't all of a sudden become a powerhouse. It's not – like, I understand you have the natural rival with Iowa State and Iowa. And, you know, that's a good scheduling.
But Iowa State's a springboard for him to get a job that he really wants.
Absolutely. That is all it is. So if Kansas goes – I understand Kansas is a basketball blue blood, but they're terrible at football. But at least you have some upside with Kansas there. Whereas you don't have that same upside when it comes to Iowa State. I think Kansas State would be a better move for the Big Ten. Let the Pac-12 gobble up Oklahoma State. That's probably the biggest school that the Big 12 has to offer outside of Texas and Oklahoma. Let them take them and the other Texas schools, Texas Tech, maybe Baylor, if anyone wants Baylor. That's the thing too. And TCU. TCU is a great option, but the problem for the Pac-12 is Pac-12 doesn't like Christian colleges. They don't want Christian colleges in their conference.
Dirty sinners.
And the thing that you have to take into consideration with the Big Ten is part of their curriculum, or not their curriculum, but their criteria for joining their conference is that you have to be, I forget the name of the organization, but there's a particular organization amongst American universities and higher learning institutions where you basically are letting it be known that you prioritize your academics above all else.
Yeah.
You have to meet a certain threshold with that. Texas has been one of those schools before, like because 10 years ago when all this original conference realignment stuff started happening, Texas was trying to be like Stanford. That was their goal. Be super great at academics.
That's right.
Also be really, really strong at athletics and dominate that way. But they ended up screwing around. You know, they did the Longhorn Network. Needless to say, none of that worked out. I think that's why you're seeing Texas and Oklahoma move to the SEC is because Texas is no longer thinking, hey, we need all this high academic standing. Like, you've got the high academic standing. We get it. But what you need to be is competitive.
Yep.
Because that's what's making money. That's what makes the most money for college and universities in America is American football.
That's it.
And the SEC is dominant in it, and you have to get a part of that action.
I saw a meme the other day, and, of course, depending on who you are and your stance on this, is shots everywhere. Because, Texas, we all know Texas football has not been great in a long time.
In about 12 years.
It has been a minute. But if you don't think that the University of Texas puts forth some outstanding athletic programs and of all varieties, I mean, then you're crazy.
Texas won the Directors' Cup this year, which the Directors' Cup is given to the university, the Division I university, that wins the most national championships across its varied sports.
That's right.
I think Texas won 13 national titles this year alone.
That's right.
Wasn't in football, which is the one that matters the most, for sure. But you got to think, Texas baseball was just in the College World Series.
Yeah.
Texas basketball is always relevant. The three main sports, maybe they're not as good in football right now, but they're relevant to a degree. They're good enough to always be involved in a bowl game. They're making money for someone, making money for themselves in football. But basketball, they're going to be in the big boy tournament. Baseball, they're going to be in the big boy tournament. So they're always going to contend with the movement to the SEC. That just facilitates it, reinforces the SEC, it reinforces Texas. And I think you're going to see them, maybe not instantly. It might take a couple, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. But they'll get that footing back, and you might see that return to glory for Texas.
It's possible. I think being in the SEC will help that. I just think it'll elevate them. And OU's already dangerous, so, I mean, good Lord.
Oh, yeah, and
they'll benefit.
And that's the thing with OU, too. OU's also really good at basketball and really good at baseball.
Yes, they are.
So it's not like the SEC is just picking up 2 football schools. They are picking up 2 schools that are great at the main 3 sports in college athletics.
That's right. So there you go. I think it's going to be awesome. All right, we got to take our first break of the evening. When we come back, lots more to go. You're listening to the Big Uglies right here on UndefinedRadio.com. Looking for new ink, tattoo makeover, or cover-up? Trippy Tats is the tattoo artist for you. They can bring your tat ideas to life in amazing detail. Whether simple or complex, whether you're a first-timer or you've had multiple tattoos, hit up Trippy Tats on Instagram and schedule your session today.
This is J.C. Martin, and you're listening to Undefined Radio.
Yard Emotion Lawn Rental. Serving North Mississippi and select areas, our yard rentals enhance your event with bold, beautiful displays built around your needs. From birthdays to graduations, birth announcements to retirements, and so much more, let Yard Emotion Lawn Rentals bring your lawn to life. Visit our website at yardemotion.com or call us at 662-426-1000. Yard Emotion Lawn Rental, a yard celebration without the frustration because we do all the work. Are you ready to travel again and thinking about a Walt Disney World vacation? Or maybe you'd like to visit Disneyland? Contact Molly Meredith at Share the Magic Travel today. When you book a vacation with Molly, you'll get complimentary concierge level services while planning and during travel. Molly will help make your vacation truly magical. All you need to book is a $200 deposit. You can find Molly on Facebook at Share the Magic Travel Molly Meredith, or email her at Molly, that's MOLLIE, at sharethemagictravel.com. Mention this ad when booking and receive a $25 gift card to use on your Disney vacation. That's Share the Magic Travel Company Molly Meredith. This gift card offer only applies on Disney vacations.
Johnny Pace in the morning, every weekday from 6 till 8 a.m. on Undefined Radio. Bourne and Hawkins Insurance, your nationwide insurance agents in Batesville, Hernando, and South Haven. They are on your side. Talk to Ben Bourne in Hernando, Josh Hawkins in Batesville, and Benji Edge in South Haven for insurance for agricultural business, commercial insurance, and for your life, home, and auto insurance. They are on your side. Visit them online at bourneandhawkins.com. Bourne and Hawkins Insurance, your nationwide insurance agents in Batesville, Hernando, and South Haven. On your side.
And welcome back to the Big Uglies right here on UndefinedRadio.com. Hope you guys are enjoying your Wednesday night.
The final episode of the Big Uglies.
Yeah, definitely the final episode of the Big
We
Uglies.
are rebranding. We're not going away. You're not getting rid of us. We're just rebranding.
You're getting a brand new show. It's going to be a nationwide show. It's going to be on all the podcasts. It's going to become a podcast as well as on the radio presentation, which is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a little bit different. But
we will be with you twice a week, every week, starting with the beginning of college football.
That's right.
And running through the Super Bowl, really.
Oh, yeah. We'll run past that. Then we'll probably go back to once a week and then getting you ready for the draft and everything that comes. You know, you got national signings.
There's no offseason in football anymore.
No, and we're going to cover everything related to football. You got the XFL coming the next year. Wow.
You just had a flashback.
Had a flashback. XFL, anyway, is coming back, you know, so under the rock. You know, that's a Rock's baby from now on, so at least see how long that lasts. But our point being, new shows coming, Undefined Blitz, get ready for it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be a blast, and we get to talk what we love to talk about, which is football. Dude, I'm all about the football.
Now, speaking of
greatest sport ever made,
some football, we talked last week about Nick Saban, his quarterback Bryce Young. Has already raked in nearly $1 million worth of NIL agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 3 other NCAA quarterbacks procured NIL deals today. Miami's De'Aaron King, Ole Miss's Matt Corral, and Wisconsin quarterback Graham Mertz. They have all signed with Panini, who is a memorabilia and trading card company. The players plan to sell footballs, helmets, and other items while also appearing at public signing events.
Oh, Matt Corral, he airs it out this year. He's going to have a lot of monies.
Oh, yeah. Well, as soon as this NIL stuff started going, or, got legalized, I guess is a weird way to say it, but Matt Corral instantly was like, yeah, it's going to be $10,000 if you want to hang out with me. You know?
Oh, dude, yeah,
right off the bat. It's like, yeah, if I have to go and forcibly deal with strangers, yeah, you can pay me 5 figures. I'll deal with some strangers then.
Yeah, oh, yeah. So, you know, that's kind of the thing. You're pay per appearance. I mean,
now, did you see what Stanford head coach David Shaw said about Nick Saban's comments about Bryce Young's NIL deals?
Mm-mm.
He was talking about fair market value. He said the point behind the NIL deals was to create a fair market value for amateur athletes.
Yes.
He said if Bryce Young is already making nearly 7 figures and he's barely played college football, he took a few snaps last year, that was it.
Yeah.
If he's making that, having barely played, it's like that's not indicative of fair market value. That's indicative of Alabama value.
Sure.
He's like, and it's going to be a huge benefit for Alabama recruiting.
Oh, it's going to be huge.
You can come here, and our fans are so insane that they will give you all of their money that they really don't have outside of the boosters,
Well, the
just
boosters
because
are
they
where-
want to be near
Well, look,
you.
that's the thing, though. The boosters are where it's coming from because they're the ones with the money.
Oh, of course.
They're the ones that give you those 5 and 6 figures to come out here and do an autograph signing or whatever.
Come to my party this weekend. We're having a
they've got
barbecue.
all this money to throw away, and people are like, well, how do these people in Alabama have money? Like, dude, just because from the South don't mean you're stupid and poor. Like people don't have money. People still own businesses or doctors and lawyers and all this other stuff. So, I mean, come on, stop being stupid. I mean, there's money to be spent and money to be made out there, and they're not afraid to spend it. They got to spend money on something.
But we talked about the branding of Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, this is the branding of Alabama.
Sure.
And how relevant Nick Saban has had them since that 2009 national title win over Texas.
Oh, yeah.
From that was the springboard season for them to get to where they are now 12 years later with this run of national titles, national championship runner-ups, to the point where you can pay a quarterback who's barely touched the field for you almost $1 million.
Yeah. And it's not even having to come from Bama itself. It's just from the boosters.
And, bad news for people that think that, Nick Saban's old. He's going to be retiring soon. Not if you hear Nick Saban talk about it. According to Nick Saban, his wife doesn't want him around at the house. She gets irritated by his presence. So
That's right. That's
she
true
told,
love
She
right
told him
there.
to keep coaching.
That's true love. Like, I don't need you around here. I love you, but from a distance.
Yeah,
So
Alabama's
just
going
stay
to
out there.
continue to be a force to deal with for quite a while.
Yeah, you might as well get used to that. It ain't going to be over anytime soon.
Now, in some other NCAA news we got today, it's come out that Reggie Bush will not have his Heisman Trophy returned.
No.
So the Heisman Trust came out earlier this year once they started talking about the possibility of it happening. But the Heisman Trust stated that if the NCAA reinstates Reggie Bush's 2005 season, that they will gladly return his Heisman Memorial Trophy. The problem is the NCAA is not going to do it because even though we've got NIL now, we did not have it then. Reggie Bush played under the rules that were in place at that point in time.
Yeah.
So the NCAA will not consider reversing penalties or previously vacated records from past years based on recent changes to name, image, and likeness regulations that went into effect this month, according to an anonymous NCAA spokesperson. Now, the same spokesperson went on to say, although college athletes can now receive benefits from their names, image, and likenesses through activities like endorsements and appearances, NCAA rules still do not permit pay-for-play type arrangements.
That's
and
right.
that's what happened
That's
with
what
Reggie
happened to
Bush.
Reggie Bush.
It wasn't NIL.
That's right.
It was, hey, we will give you lots of money
To come play for us.
come play at USC.
That's right.
And he said, okay.
Yeah,
But-
and look, as much as I hate the NCAA and that legalized mafia system that the NCAA runs and has, I mean, they're not wrong here. The rules at the time were the rules. And like you said, it wasn't NIL money anyway. It was school infractions.
Which
that,
you
when
still
can't
cannot
do
do
it.
now.
That's right.
Even
you
with
can't
the
do that
NIL
now.
thing.
So, I mean, I don't blame them. The only thing I hate, and we've talked about this in previous shows, is that is with the NCAA, Reggie Bush should have been the one who was victimized or penalized here. Not victimized, because he wasn't a victim in this.
No.
He was a willing perpetrator. All right, so
He got his USC money.
That's right.
And then he went to the NFL and got his NFL money.
That's right. So whatever happened, but it's the rest of those kids that were there who had nothing to do with it who have to pay the price for it.
Absolutely.
You want to punish the school, you take away scholarships, you take away this, you do whatever you got to do, but I don't think it's fair to take it out on all those other kids who had zero to do with this. Yeah. Who were out there. It wasn't one person just out there busting their butts and creating all this stuff.
And we saw that the school did get penalized. It ultimately brought around the end of the Pete Carroll era at USC, which worked out well for the Seattle Seahawks.
Sure did.
They won a Super Bowl out of
Yep.
it, went to another, which you could argue that Pete Carroll possibly hurt him in that one, but we'll save that for a later day. The last part of this little comment from this anonymous NCAA spokesperson says, the rules that govern fair play are voted on, agreed to, and expected to be upheld by all NCAA member schools, which means that each individual athletic department at each university that falls under the NCAA umbrella they are all responsible for what their players do.
Absolutely.
They are responsible for what their coaches do. We've heard it before, like when Ole Miss got in trouble a couple years back or a few years back, what they got penalized for was a lack of institutional control.
That's right.
Over the football program.
That's right.
And we saw it with Louisville and Rick Pitino, where he was, hiring hookers for lack of a better term. He was hiring hookers for recruits.
That's right.
In an attempt to try to get them to come play basketball at Louisville.
That's so funny. That's still hilarious.
So there's always whatever edge coaches can find to win, they will try to find it.
I swear, dude, that's just funny.
But that's what happens when it's less about academics, it's less about who they are as students, and it's a business.
And college football is a business.
Like people say that
business.
Everyone knows the NFL is a business. It has to be. It's predicated upon that.
But if you don't know that the NCAA is a business, you're stupid.
Yeah,
you are fooling yourself.
NCAA tries to present itself as being all about come here and get your studies paid for, because that's what's important is your studies and your learning and your higher education. But you can also play athletics for us. But while you're playing athletics, we're going to make millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, or if you're Texas, billions of dollars off of you. And then we're going to give you, until recently, next to none of it.
Yep.
And
well, that's why I think the
best of luck to you.
will benefit and probably help resolve a lot of that issue, though. Because the schools no longer have to say, we'll give you money to come play for us. You leave that to your boosters.
Yeah.
Our boosters are paying out.
Because now, I mean, it's still technically illegal. The schools cannot say, "Hey,
they can't
I will pay you to come play here." However, if if Fred Smith, guy who's the owner of FedEx, he's a graduate of the University of Memphis. If Memphis is recruiting some 5-star recruit that they got no business signing,
that's right,
because it's Memphis and they're an AAC school, they play in the Power 5. Although their recruiting has gone well over the last, I guess, decade now. It feels like half decade at least. But if Memphis could technically be like, hey, Fred, we were hosting this recruit. You want to come talk to him about potential opportunities at FedEx, with his career? Fred Smith says, okay, let me clear my schedule. Comes over there to this 5-star recruit and is like, hey, look, man, if you want to play at Memphis, I'll give you $500,000 right now to spend at least the next 3 years at Memphis.
Yeah.
What kid's going to get offered $500,000 and be like, no, man, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I think I'll go eat my ramen noodles.
The only way that happens if Alabama's like, hey, man, we'll give you $500,000 and you'll be on national television every week and you'll be relevant and you'll be playing for championships.
Yep.
That's how that works.
This is going to be interesting. I mean, I like the thing that they can. I like the fact that these kids can make money off their brand. And I do like the fact that schools are still not allowed to pay their people to come up and play for them. So, we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, you've got very boisterous opinions on both sides of that aisle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And those conversations and that screaming match won't end for quite some time.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Now, you're watching this tonight. Normally we go on live on Thursdays, but I had some stuff I've got to do tomorrow. But speaking of tomorrow, the SEC is scheduled to meet tomorrow to discuss adding Oklahoma and Texas. I believe Tuesday, Texas and Oklahoma reached out because Monday they told the Big 12 they weren't renewing their rights.
Formally went.
And then yesterday they formally requested an invitation.
That's right.
To join the SEC.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, the SEC schools are meeting to discuss that addition. It will be SEC presidents and chancellors. They have a scheduled meeting for tomorrow in which they will discuss expansion and whether to add Oklahoma and Texas.
I would love to be in that
what
room.
Would be college football's first super conference of 16 teams. A source with knowledge of the situation confirmed to ESPN. I think Brett McMurphy is also reporting that the Texas A&M, I don't know, I guess she's the chancellor.
Yeah.
She might be the president. I don't know her official title. But she's already committed to saying yes.
Well, because after the suddenness and the unexpectedness of it all and the hotheads and what's going on, when they start thinking about it and they realize she's not stupid. She knows what it's going to mean for the university.
Well, it was a bad look at first to be like, oh, we don't want Texas here because they're our rivals and they recruit against us and they want to play us.
This just makes you look like you're scared.
Yeah.
you're just
Like-
salty and scared.
Like you were one lost game
Yeah.
last season from being in the college football playoff.
Well, exactly.
With an expanded field, you would be like Texas A&M. Would be like the 5th seed at worst.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. And here's the thing about Texas A&M too. They have a lot of tradition. They do. I mean, Texas A&M has a huge tradition at that school. I remember growing up when I was young. That was the first Texas team I liked was Texas A&M. It was. I mean, because that's just what we heard. And that's more of a. It's like Mississippi State is here, right? It's
the
that ag
agricultural school.
I mean, and which is cool. I mean, I don't have a problem with that because let's be honest. My school, the school that I love, University of Texas, that's becoming a prissy school.
Yeah.
It does not sit well with me. And I love the Horns. I mean, I love the Longhorns. They became. I just thought they were.
I love you say prissy, like not every university in America has a strong liberal arts department.
Yeah, well, and I'm not saying that, but some schools are way more liberal than others, right? And we see this with Ole Miss.
Austin as a city is liberal.
They are. I mean, they have become big time like that.
They're the San Francisco of Texas.
I swear, it's depressing. But so Texas A&M has a long tradition, and it was a bad look for them to go especially as an ag school to go. You don't like what they're doing. I'm like, come on. First of all,
like you talking about how successful A&M has been since joining the SEC.
Yeah.
And it didn't start off that way. They struggled at first.
That's right.
But now they've blown it. If you are as bad as you think you are,
yeah, you should welcome this.
What is your problem? You don't like these guys anyway.
Yeah.
Like they're your rivals. Why would you not want to rub it in their face the success that you've had?
Exactly. Like you had to come follow us over here first because you couldn't handle it.
See, that's the way that A&M wants to present it. That narrative. You had to come follow us.
And that's how I would. If I was A&M, that's what I would do. Like you finally decided you had to follow the big boys. Come on. And then because as a football team, especially if you think you're that much better, well, here's your chance to prove it.
Absolutely.
What are you worried about?
I want that game. That is my favorite rivalry game as a kid growing up. I loved it way more than I loved Texas and OU.
Oh yeah.
But then once it was gone, and it was weird because the posturing at first was like, well, Texas supposedly didn't want to play A&M anymore since they were leaving. But A&M's like, we do want to play Texas. Well, then Texas was like, you know what, we'll play A&M. And then A&M's like,
nah.
we don't want to play you anymore.
That's right.
And so now it's getting to the point where if Texas is in this conference with them,
you playing.
you're going to have to play each other.
You're going to have to play each other.
And then A&M was kind of spinning like, well, we don't want that. But now they're coming around because they have to save face.
I think so. And so I think they have to be one of the yes votes. They can't be one of the ones that say no at this point.
And a lot of people point to there was supposedly a quote-unquote gentleman's agreement with the previous SEC commissioner.
Yeah, that's right.
Who has now passed on. He's no longer with us.
Yeah,
before Greg Sankey took over the SEC, but this was when Missouri and A&M came into the conference. And this agreement was if schools that are in another conference that are in your state want to join the SEC, you'll have this right to, basically preclude those schools.
It's a right to censor, baby.
It wasn't written. Nothing was ever put into paper or anything like that.
There's no contractual thing that says
this was a handshake deal that will never hold up in the court of law.
No.
and the people who all signed this thing
are done.
Are not even at these schools anymore.
That's right.
Even the people that were, I know that Ole Miss alone has gone through, I think, 2 chancellors since then and a different AD.
Our AD is, and where is he at?
He's now at A&M.
That's right.
For better or worse.
So come on.
But that was one of those things. Like A&M at first was talking about this gentleman's agreement.
Yeah.
It was like, well, we had this gentleman's agreement that we could keep Texas out if we want to, but it never would have had legs because those people that came up with that aren't there anymore to begin with.
And that's very true. And that's just kind of how it is.
But it's like would South Carolina really be that bothered if Clemson wanted to come to the SEC? Like, I understand it hurts their recruiting, but let's look at where South Carolina is right now in the conference.
Yep.
The recruiting's not that great anyway.
No, it's not.
But it strengthens your program because now you're playing Clemson every year.
Yep.
Every year.
That's right.
That's going to be your big rivalry game. South Carolina and Clemson. I think a lot of people would like to see that.
I think they would too, honestly.
And think about Florida State and Florida already play each other every year.
Yeah.
It's an interconference game. It's the last game of the regular season for both schools. But if Florida State came into the SEC and you've got Florida and Florida State every year as a conference game, that just strengthens Florida State that much more, strengthens the SEC that much more.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of SEC people hate Ohio State, because we were talking about this earlier, the reports that possibly Ohio State and Michigan looking to come to the SEC.
Yeah.
Or that the SEC should go up and get them. I don't like that idea. I'm not an Ohio State basher like most of SEC people are.
I'm not either.
I respect that program, their history. I respect Michigan's program and their history, even if Michigan's not up right now and they're struggling. But I think there is to a degree, there needs to be some kind of rationalization around the geological locations of these conferences.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of these conferences and being geographically linked is that the people that live within these conferences can relate their life experiences to each other.
Sure.
It's going to be a bit of a stretch, once Texas and
OU,
Oklahoma are in there on top of A&M. For someone that's growing up in South Carolina, for example, say South Carolina, it's the once every however often it's going to happen. That they go to Texas to play, and it's like, oh, now they're in Austin. Like, it's going to be a little bit of a culture shock for them.
Well, it is.
Or if Oklahoma State joins the Pac-12 and Oklahoma State's got to go up to Seattle, Washington to play University of Washington.
That's the big thing. It's not really because Texas coming here or these schools going to Texas, that's not that far. That's not that big of a jaunt. But you're talking about going
all the way to the East Coast.
To the East Coast, that's insane.
Yeah, you're going halfway across the country.
Especially when your school is in the middle of the country. That's a haul.
Right. And even when you talk about Notre Dame possibly joining the ACC, that's South Bend, Indiana. That's
right.
That's a decent ways away from all the ACC schools because they run right up the East Coast.
Well, exactly. So, and I'm sure these schools are going to have to think about that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this whole thing with the Big 12. I mean, what's going to come out of that? I mean, it's just now getting
the
good.
Entire world of college athletics is about to change.
Oh,
exponentially. But here's the thing with the geographical locations of the SEC or the ACC or whatever conference it is, it doesn't matter. Like I said earlier, it used to matter because people could tie their life experiences to the other schools in the conference. Like we share these commonalities. Yeah. But we don't consume media as viewers. We don't consume media the way we did 10 years ago or 9 years ago when the last conference realignment happened, right?
It's different.
It's different then. It's definitely different than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you got a handful of schools. I know when you were a kid, you got even fewer schools outside of your market. You got your market, and that was
your market, and that was all you got.
When I was a kid, you got to watch Memphis. You got to watch Ole Miss in this area.
Yep.
Possibly State, and whatever big game was on
exactly.
like ESPN or whatever. Because ESPN was, alive, thankfully, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But you didn't get all that exposure. But now we've got cell phones. We got laptops. We've got tablets. We've got all this different stuff. What's going on, Junior? We've got all these different ways to consume the medium that is college football.
Well, sure.
And does the geographics of the situation really even matter from that
It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter from the viewer. It's only going to matter for the players and the fans that travel to games.
Because football is the best television sport in America.
Absolutely, without question.
Like I know a lot of people. I'm not a big people person, as it were, right?
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. Do I really want to go sit in a stadium full of 100,000 people with people drunkenly spilling their beer and their nachos all over me? No, I don't. But I'll gladly watch all the football on TV. I'll go to a game every now and again because I want to be in that environment ever so often. But like basketball, smaller crowd, smaller venue, it's like the perfect live, participatory sport.
But that's kind of the thing too, though, and so you're right from a media standpoint, it's not going to affect a lot of people who just watch it on TV. The thing that it affects are your fans who travel, and your players who play.
Absolutely.
If you're having to travel that distance, all right. It's different. Like when you're Big 12 and most of your games are there. You travel a couple, 3 hours, 4 hours.
Most
maybe
of your teams
5
are in Texas, for that matter.
Exactly. So, but now, if you're talking about a team like Oklahoma State and they end up in the Pac, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if they're playing Cal or they're playing USC or UCLA, your uncles and your aunts and your cousins,
they can't go.
It's hard to make those trips.
That's right. So your fan base is going to be entirely different for a school like that to have to go. So it's not going to surprise me to see the Big 12 is going to fight to stay alive.
They have to.
They're just going to. Bob Bowlesby's not going to go out. That he's going to make sure that even if it's just for money, which I don't think it's just all about the money, it's pride involved here. It's his baby. It's what he wants. He doesn't want it to go away. They're going to try and do. The reality is, the Big 12 will never be the same.
No.
Oklahoma,
they
Texas,
don't have the
out.
star power.
Big 12 will never be the same. You can try to hang on to it. That income, that money deal, it's all going to change.
And they've
for
admitted
the Big 12.
that.
Yeah. So it's going to change. There's no question whether it stays as a single entity now or it goes away. That's where your betting odds are at right now, and I think most of the betting odds are that Big 12 is done.
Their best bet, if Bob Bowlesby wants to keep some kind of job, is a merger. Whether they merge with the Pac-12 or they merge with the AAC, although supposedly, right now if ESPN is really facilitating that whole thing, that looks like it's very unlikely to happen.
That's right. All right, let's talk about a little NFL news real quick because a couple of things happening. Aaron Rodgers, of course, is back with the Packers for this year.
Right.
For this year. That's a big-time thing. In his press conference, boy, I love Aaron Rodgers. He ain't holding nothing back either. He had a list of names sitting beside him in this press conference, right, of all the guys that played for him that he thought was misused, mismanaged, wasn't treated right by the management. Talked about how much he loved his teammates, loved his coaches and staff, and those people that he played for and played with, and the fans. His issue is with upper management.
Here's his exact quote on that. He said, "Also, I wanted to help the organization maybe learn from some mistakes in the past. In my opinion, about the way some of the outgoing veterans were treated and just the fact that we didn't retain a number of players that I feel like were core players to our foundation and our locker room. I'm talking about high character guys. I'm talking about Charles Woodson, Jordy Nelson, Julius Peppers, Clay Matthews, Randall Cobb, James Jones, John Kuhn, Brett Good, TJ Lang, Brian Bulaga, Casey Hayward, and Micah Hyde. Guys who were exceptional players for us, great locker room guys, high character guys, many of them whom weren't offered a contract at all, or they were extremely lowballed, or were maybe, in my opinion, not given the respect on the way out that guys of their status and stature and high character deserve." And then it kind of progressed from there into a commitment for the 2021 season and beyond, and that really wasn't given at any time.
Yeah. So you see where he's at, what he's about, right? And this has been Aaron Rodgers' whole thing. You have had Aaron Rodgers, top quarterback in the NFL.
This is
one of the absolute greats.
18th or 19th season.
Yeah. And
he's now the longest tenured Packer in history.
Yeah.
No Green Bay Packer has played
right.
as much football for the Packers as Aaron Rodgers.
And I don't care what your personal opinion is about Aaron Rodgers. You cannot take away that he is an all-time great quarterback. This dude is money, and he gets it done, and he can play the position. He has proven it time and time again. But like so many teams out there, the Packers organization has misused that man.
Oh,
and they should. Green Bay should have more championships than what they do.
It's not even. I don't think it's a misuse of Aaron Rodgers. It's
a misuse. But
it's
is
not putting more around him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a misuse of Aaron Rodgers because you're not giving that man the parts he needs because you've got one of the great quarterbacks of all time on your team. Why are you not putting the pieces around that man?
That's after they had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time before him.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The Green Bay Packers have had 30 straight years.
Yes.
30 straight years of Hall of Fame quarterbacks between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers playing for them consecutively.
Yeah.
Nonstop. Other than the times where Favre or Rodgers were injured.
That's right.
Outside of that, it's been those two guys, and they have 2 championships to show for it.
Yeah, which is sad. Because that's what I'm saying. As an organization, now you want to know why Aaron Rodgers is frustrated. This is the reason.
Because he knows. He knows how good he is. Like, he's as old as he is and just came off of an MVP season.
Yeah.
Arguably his greatest season he's put together as a pro.
That's right.
And so for him to have that MVP kind of season, you got to think he feels like he should have a voice with the front office. Not necessarily make the calls.
That's right.
But he thinks that they should come to him to some degree, and maybe he's earned this.
Well, he has.
And it's hard to argue against it. For him to say, hey, like this guy and this guy, I really think we should bring them back. Like, they're crucial to what we do. But this guy over here, like, that's the guy we should try to bring in. And to his credit, he also said, look, I understand that Green Bay is not a huge vacation destination. People are coming here to play with me.
That's
to
right.
play with this team and knowing that they can win a championship here. And the fact that, and Roger said, and the fact that I haven't been used in these discussions is what I wanted to change moving forward. And he said that he felt like based on his years, the way that he can still play, that should be a natural part of the conversation.
Well, and it should. Why would you not? Why would you not? And he sees what's going on with Tom Brady.
Oh, of course.
You don't think that rubs him the wrong way? Like, dude.
Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl at, 44 years old, 43
right.
years old?
And you saw the video Tom Brady put out the other day?
Oh, with the jugs machine?
Oh, my God.
It's fake, but...
Huh? Still. It's still cool.
It's fun.
It's still cool because he's out. That's the kind of guy you want, guys who are putting out these things like that who are hyped up to do stuff.
Like he put out one a couple weeks ago of him throwing a football on the beach, and he throws it up towards the moon.
That's right.
And the moon blows
the moon
up.
blows up. So, but the guy like that who has that competitive nature, who people want to play for because he has that championship mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, and that's the thing. Dude has a championship mentality.
Aaron Rodgers did pull a straight power move, though, in
Sure
this whole
did.
thing.
I love it.
In order to come back to the team, he also told him, not only do I need to restructure my deal, they voided the final year of the deal.
Yep.
I think they're basically moving all his money around to where he's getting everything guaranteed to him this year. So that
he can leave next year.
It makes it easier to move next year. They can
That's
either
right.
cut him, release him, trade him to wherever he wants to go or whatever it might be. But also, he said, I'm also not coming back unless you give me Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
He's playing for the
Who's
Texans.
coming back?
He's playing for the
Randall Cobb.
Texans. Go get him. Bring him back. So it just came out that not only did the Packers pick up Randall Cobb,
This is great.
they only gave up a 6th-round pick for Randall
That's
Cobb.
right.
So a 6th-round pick to make your quarterback happy. Not only that, the Texans are going to pay $3 million of Randall Cobb's salary to facilitate the trade.
The Texans are the worst run organization in professional sports,
It's like,
almost.
I know you want
It's
this
tragic.
guy. I know you've got Aaron Rodgers. If I'm the Texans, I know you have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wants Randall Cobb. How badly do you want Randall Cobb?
Yeah.
Because if I could hold you hostage for Randall Cobb, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm certainly not paying you part of his salary.
No, and they did it. Texans are hideous. That organization is trash, man.
It's a terrible, terrible move.
What an awful, awful move by that team. That's crazy to me. But this is, God, dang, I can't. I'll tell you what. Some of these teams are just ridiculous in how they handle things or how they attempt to handle things and how they run their organization. It is just criminal.
Speaking of teams that are trying to handle things the right way, today in practice, Dak Prescott, his first padded practice,
Yeah.
Dak Prescott left with an injury.
This is an arm injury.
He had
Not his ankle.
He had a strained muscle in his shoulder. He probably could have practiced through it because it's not
Yeah.
like anyone's hitting 4.
That's right.
No one's touching 4.
No, he ain't
you
gonna
know.
hit.
But the Cowboys staff, coaches, doctors, and they're like, you know what? It's Dak. He's super important. He's way too important for us to just throw in the fire.
Yeah, well, dude, you know what?
If his shoulder's bothering
day,
him,
buddy.
just let him take a day.
And because of that, defense shined.
Oh,
The fall off even before Dak, though.
Before Dak got hurt, the last
Defense
few
was
days,
shining.
the defense has really been showing out.
I tell you,
particularly the secondary.
Dan Quinn, his footprints are all over that defense now.
Yeah.
It's a big difference because I heard the thing today, and they were talking about that because now they're actually being coached and taught.
Hands-on.
Yes,
Like,
very much hands-on.
Dan Quinn, every day, he's working hands-on with those defensive linemen and pass rushers. You know, trying to show them hand placements, hand movements, ways to adding extra tools to the repertoire to beat these pass blockers.
Yeah, so these guys are showing up, so it's interesting.
Now, I did watch some one-on-one drills for the Cowboys earlier. It was really just, wide receiver and a defensive back.
Yeah.
and either Ben DiNucci or Garrett Gilbert throwing to him. Saw some stuff to be impressed with. There was one route I thought there was a kid that Dallas picked up who he played for another team last year, but he's a wide receiver, but he was going up against Trayvon Diggs. I was like, oh, Trayvon's about to school this kid. He's about to crush him at the line. The kid won't be able to get off. Trayvon gave him a free release, and the guy tried to run a quick comeback route. And Trayvon just read it the whole way, batted the ball down with ease, and was like, yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah, really. Trayvon's been impressive this whole camp.
I watched Simi Fehoko run a route, and I think it was the new Kyron Brown that Dallas just picked up from the Jets. Simi Fehoko was running with him, and the ball was kind of underthrown, but Fehoko he couldn't get any kind of separation.
Yeah.
It was a sloppy route running. It was rough.
The defensive backs have kind of stepped up. Malik Hooker's been signed by the Cowboys now.
I'm so excited about that.
Which is awesome.
I hope he stays healthy because I watched, like I said, I don't hate Ohio State. In fact, I watched a lot of Ohio State football because I know there's a lot of talent there.
Sure.
And that's NFL names to know.
Oh, yeah.
And that run that Ohio State had when Zeke was there and Noah Brown and J.T. Barrett and all those guys, Malik Hooker was on that team. He was redshirted that year they won the national championship. But you watch him the next, 2 years after that. I mean, he showed out. So far in his injury-riddled NFL career, he showed out. As far as,
if he's healthy,
he's a ball hawk.
He's going to be insane back there in that secondary.
He is that coverage safety, that true coverage safety that the Cowboys have not had in nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
No, not 20 years, but about 15 years or so now.
If the Cowboys have a top 15 defense, even if it's at number 15, number 16 with the offense that they got,
they should compete.
It's gonna be tight. There's a lot of games to win.
But before we go, I need to talk about one last huge piece of news coming out of the NFL, and that's Dolphins cornerback Xavier Howard. He has demanded a trade to start Dolphins camp. I don't have a statement in front of me, but Xavier Howard revealed Tuesday night at the onset of Dolphins training camp that he has formally requested a trade, the latest expression of continued displeasure with his contract. Howard explained via social media that the Dolphins declined efforts by him and his agent, David Cantor, to rework his existing deal, which is a 5-year, $75.25 million pact that he signed in 2019. He's got a big deal.
Yeah.
He's got a huge contract.
Yeah.
The thing is, when he signed that deal in 2019, he was the highest paid corner in the game.
Okay.
Now, he believes he's outperformed that contract, and he has. Even though he's dealt with a bunch of injuries over the last two seasons, he still has 22 interceptions over the last 2 years.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
That is nuts.
Like, his production is incredible. But he feels a little disrespected about at least the guaranteed money.
Yeah.
If nothing else. Because the Dolphins went out last season and signed Byron Jones, who used to be the corner for the Cowboys.
That's right.
They signed him to a deal that's $82.5 million, and he gets $16.5 million every year, compared to Xavier Howard's. I think it's like $15.05 million.
I'd be a little upset too.
Yeah, if I am the single most productive corner in the game as far as takeaways, yeah, you better pay me my money.
Yeah, I'd be a little upset about that.
I'm not saying Xavier Howard's Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
But he's certainly the closest thing to a Deion Sanders that the NFL has right now.
Sure.
For sure. And so he has voiced his displeasure. He wants out. He had an NFL high 10 interceptions last season. Subsequently, he skipped all offseason activities this year and has and received up to $93,000 in fines so far. I believe he is reporting to camp.
Yeah.
Because who wants to get fined $50,000 a day?
Yeah, exactly.
So he is reporting to camp. Same with Deshaun Watson, who is at Texans camp. Has been working with the team a little bit. Not much. Of course, they're not doing padded practice yet. They just opened camp. But Deshaun Watson's at camp. Of course, that's a real touch-and-go situation because they have to see how his whole legal proceedings will pan out. He still wants a trade. The Texans are now a little more willing to trade him. At first, they said, we won't trade you. Now they're saying, we will trade you, but we want an absurd amount of things in return. But they won't get what they're asking for, not with all this hanging over Deshaun Watson's head and his future uncertain.
Yeah, there's no way you can do that. What team in the right mind, except the Texans, would do that. And you're already on the team that's going to do something stupid like that. So it just doesn't. You'd have to be ignorant to pull off a trade like that, not knowing what's going on legally with him to give away your whole organization to do that. That's stupid.
Anytime that there's a big-time player like this who wants a trade or something, instantly people are already linking that player to the Cowboys. But people have been linking Howard to the Cowboys, though, as far back as February after the season was over.
Yeah.
As far as a potential trade possibility. And Jerry Jones came out first day of training camp, made a statement, talked about there is nothing that he will not do to get the Cowboys back into not only in the Super Bowl but winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If you're telling me realistically that there's nothing that you won't do, I mean, this is the thing to do.
The question is who you giving up and what are you doing?
Dude, you could have I will give you Anthony Brown. I will give you Jordan Lewis. I will give you every other corner not named Kelvin Joseph or Trayvon Diggs. You can have the rest of them combined. I'll give you them. I'll give you a few draft picks. You can have some salary relief. Don't care. But if I've got Xavier Howard, Trayvon Diggs, and Kelvin Joseph, I feel pretty good about that three-man corner rotation with a Malik Hooker healthy, granted.
That's right.
Healthy Malik Hooker and DeMonte KZ to rotate in and Donovan Wilson.
Yeah, because KZ has looked pretty good, too.
That is a wild improvement over what the Cowboys had last season.
Oh, my Lord, it is. It'll be interesting to see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is it for the last edition of the Big Ugly Show. We will see you next Thursday as Undefined Blitz premieres right here on Undefined Radio. It's going to be fun. Join us for the new show. Like I said, it'll be next Thursday. We're launching it as a podcast as well, so it ought to be a lot of fun. A lot of stuff to talk about, I'm sure, next week. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then. As we get ready for the football season, like I said, we're covering college and pros. We're covering it all. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Next Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame game.
Yes.
So there will be football next Thursday night. The Dallas Cowboys take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Canton, Ohio. And then Saturday and Sunday, you'll get both the 2020 and class of 2021 Hall of Fame induction ceremonies.
It's a whole lot of inducting. But, like I said, I'll watch it more, at least watch the highlights of it.
And then once you fast forward to that following weekend, because there's only 3 weeks of preseason after the Hall of Fame game this year. So that following Thursday, you should be getting football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from the NFL pregame perspective.
Yeah, it should. So, really a lot to talk about. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. So, have a good weekend. We'll see you next Thursday.
30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move, the 45, the 50. He's to the 40. He could go. He's at the 25, the 20. They dive in.